Okay, so today I'm going to do a video about some of my opinions of queer theory and gender and human sexuality in general. I was at a Chinese restaurant recently and a little fortune cookie came at the end and it said, you know, it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness, and that really hit home with me. This video was inspired by Mr. Rockin' E's video about queer theory, and I'm not really going to say too much about that. I'm going to put a link to it in the comments, so if you want to watch it, you feel free and form your own opinions, but I just basically wanted to give my opinion on it. I think queer theory is a bunch of crap. And if for those who don't know, it's basically the theory that labels like gay, straight, bisexual, well, maybe not so much bisexual, but that heterosexual, homosexual labels are more or less unnecessary and meaningless because gender is a nebulous concept, a fluid concept, and as is sexuality. And more or less that, I guess you could say it's sort of the theory that we are all bisexual and all hermaphroditic, and therefore for anyone to call themselves male or female or heterosexual or homosexual, you know, that those are meaningless labels and that we need to do away with them because they unnecessarily divide us and give the illusion, I guess, that there is a significant difference between the genders that there actually isn't. So yeah, I do think it's a bunch of crap. I will acknowledge, of course, if you have to, I think, if you have any sense, acknowledge that gender is a fluid concept or nebulous concept for some people. Me personally, I think that if I woke up tomorrow and I was a man, I might be unhappy about it. I think that I probably would be unhappy about it just because I do enjoy being a woman and that's what I'm used to. But I don't think it's difficult for me to imagine actually feeling compelled to go out and get a sex change operation, you know, because my biology didn't conform to, you know, what I wanted it to. But that having been said, I wouldn't ever diss anyone who felt like they needed to make that change. I don't really understand transsexuality. As I said, I'm such a person that has a real mix, more so, of masculine and feminine traits, I think, than a lot of people do. Maybe that's why I'm bisexual, I don't know. But, you know, so transsexuality for me personally is difficult to understand. But just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that I would assume that it's not real, it's all in people's heads, or it's, you know, a result of society and their binary definitions of gender. You know, I think that there's something to it, and that I think there are legitimately some people who are born with the identity or feeling of a woman and their physical body does not conform to that. You know, and I think that those people have a difficult enough time without being told by, say, feminists like Sheila Jeffreys, who, you know, I really dislike, and feminists like her who basically are very threatened by the idea of men transitioning to women, and very dismissive of them, you know, and basically call them, you know, psychologically disturbed, or, you know, it's just, I think for a majority of people that while, you know, gender is a nebulous concept for some people, and then other people, maybe it's not a nebulous concept, but they just don't really care that much about it. You know, I think it is important for a lot of people. It is important for a lot of, that they vest a lot in their identity as a man or a woman, and that just because there are some people that don't conform to that, I think the vast majority of people do, and therefore labels are meaningful when it comes to sexuality, and therefore, like I say, I don't agree with queer theory. I don't agree with the idea that sex roles are a product of social conditioning. I think that's a bunch of crap. I think feminists who seek to deny differences between the sexes beyond genitalia, you know, that don't want to look at the brain structure and you know, other physical characteristics that distinguish men from women in general, not for every individual, but in general. I think that they're delusional, and I think they discredit themselves when they reject science just because it doesn't tell them what they want to hear. And they are certainly not the only people that do that. Obviously, you know, fundamentalist religious type people often also reject biological realities in favor of their doctrines. They will, for example, ignore hermaphrodites or transsexuals, or try to say that they're cursed by God, and you know, all kinds of horrible stuff that nobody should have to endure. I think there is a danger in any civil rights movement of going too far in the other direction. And I do think that there are people who can be, you know, they become so consumed with fighting the enemy that they become what they're fighting against, just in the opposite direction. And I think that I don't think that I would like to think that mainstream activists don't really embrace queer theory and think more the way I do, but maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm wrong, and well, if that's the case, I just want to put my opinion out into the world that not everyone who is pro-gay rights thinks that gender is meaningless, and you know, not every bisexual, which I am bisexual, but not every bisexual thinks that everyone is secretly bisexual. I think it's very disrespectful of bisexual people to assume that everyone is a little bit bisexual, and I don't think that that is true. I think that there are a lot of people who are 100% heterosexual, who've never had a thought or a significant fantasy about being with someone of the same sex, and I think likewise that there are a lot of homosexuals who never have had a fleeting thought or fantasy about being with someone of the opposite sex. particularly men, I don't think, it's probably going to be a very controversial statement, it might piss some people off, but this is what I think. I think that there are more men who are exclusively homosexual than there are women. I think that there are very few women in reality who are 100% homosexual, and I think that that makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, that that would be true, because women traditionally have needed to seek men out for protection, and men traditionally have been, you know, the head of power structure, so it just wouldn't make, I see them as being more, men in general, as being more independent in general, so I just don't think that true lesbianism is very common. I think that there are a lot of women that identify as lesbian because there is so much pressure within the lesbian community to identify that way, because I think most of the women that identify as bisexual, what that really means is that they're interested in being in relationships with men, but they're interested in just having casual sexual relationships with women. To me, that's not bisexual. That is heterosexual with a homosexual fetish. And but you know, I don't get to determine how people use words, unfortunately. So. Or maybe fortunately, you know, everyone, like I said, I think that's why there's such a danger in activism of it going the other way. I just think it's human nature to try and get power and control over other people to a degree, and to try to see everyone and force everyone to be the same as you are. But, you know, I think if anything, you know, the LGBT community should be willing to embrace diversity of all kinds, and queer theory just tends to blur everything together, and I think it just creates a false picture of what reality is for most people, even though that is the reality for some people. So, anyway, that is some of my thoughts on queer theory and gender and sexuality, and I hope you enjoyed watching my video. Thank you.